Now, in order for us to use ViewModel with Compose, Android Compose here, we need to get a few things. So if you go to Google and say Compose Android ViewModel, and you want to go to the usually second hit that says developer.android Jetpack libraries, okay? So let's click there. And here you can read more about ViewModel. So there's a lot of information. You can spend hours and hours and days and so forth. But what I really want to emphasize here and take time to read, there's some things that are a little bit advanced, but that's okay. Scroll down until you see the ViewModel, okay? Here. So it says here, if you use the architectural components ViewModel library, you can access the ViewModel from any composer by calling ViewModel. This is good. But there's a caution here that said to use the ViewModel functions, add the Android lifecycle ViewModel compose and the version number here. Now this may change, this version, but that's what we are at this point. So this is what we need to add into our build.gradle in order for us to get the ViewModel lifecycle. Let me go ahead and copy this, go back to our code, project, and I'm going to open Gradle. Close this down. This second Gradle there. And scroll down. We have a lot of squiggly lines here. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is right down here, I'm going to say implementation. I could put as an object dependency, or I can just say like this, double quotes, and paste that code there. I believe that now we also will have to change to 2.4. That was an old one. There we go. We just click and it's going to do that. Now, here is the other thing that you may notice. Okay, whenever you come to build.gradle and you see that all of these have squiggly lines, in fact, if you have over, it's going to say change to that version. If you can go ahead and continue, or you can just go ahead and say Alt Option Enter and go ahead and do all that. Now, this one here, you notice that it says that a newer version of Android Compose UI, okay, there's a newer version that is 1.0.4. Now, here's the thing. Most likely you're going to have a lot of errors if you start changing, especially the Compose version. Here's what I'm going to show you how to fix a few things here, right? I'm not saying you're going to have these errors. If you don't, then that's great. But if you do, here's how you do. The Compose version, you can see that is a variable. Where is this declared? Well, this is declared inside of our build.gradle, this first one. So click, it's here. So what you want to do, as of recording this video, we need to go to 1.0.4. Okay, great. And also most likely you will see a squiggly line in our build.gradle, in our Gradle here. So we're going to change that to 7.0.3. Again, these numbers may change. In fact, they will be different by the time you watch this video. Could probably be 7.10 or 8.0.1. Okay, doesn't matter. But just go ahead and, in this case here, let's go ahead and change to 7.03. Now, because I know this will happen, you have to also change this to 3 like this. Again, you don't have to change anything if everything is up to date. Okay, it's only if it's not up to date. If you change to 7.03, in this case, at this moment when I'm recording this video, it will require you to change the Kotlin plugin, Gradle plugin, to 1.5.3. By the time you watch this video, could be higher. All right. Now, if you go back to our previous Gradle here, you can see that we should be fairly okay. Let's go ahead and do the same to others that are not really important to us, but since we're here, we're just going to do it anyway. Okay, let's go ahead and sync real quick. May take a little bit. Okay, it looks like everything is great right now. And what I usually like to do, I like to run the app right away, just to make sure that we didn't make mistakes and things are not working anymore. So this is an old, okay, just give it a time. All right, looks like everything is running smoothly, and that's good. I can delete. Okay, good. So all of the updates didn't mess up with our code. It's always good news. Now that we have the ViewModel dependency, we're going to implement it. Let's go ahead and close this down to show just code. So I usually like to add a view model close to the main screen per se. In this case, node screen is what governs everything. So I'm going to say Command N or right click, and I'm going to create a Kotlin class. This is going to be just a class. Let's call this node view model. And the naming is very important. So whenever you notice that we append view model to the name of our view model, that way, because we may have more than one view models. In fact, most apps have more than one view model. So it's nice to connect or to append that view model so we know it is indeed a view model. Okay, so there we go. And in this case here, this will inherit view model as such. Get the first one there that says Android X life cycle. And of course, pass in the constructor there. All right, there we go. So it's just a normal class, but with more power. So first I'm going to create a variable as such. I'm going to call this node list, and I'm going to say mutable. It's going to make this a mutable list, mutable state. That is, there's a difference because we want to capture the state. And then right away it will tell us, okay, what is the type we are going to allow this to hold. It's going to be node type. Okay, we have to import that. Make sure we get our node model like this. All right. And next here, this is the beauty. What we're going to do now is I'm going to create a few functions. The first function is going to be the add node as such. And of course, this add node, we need to pass an actual node object. And then all I have to do, because I have this node list, a mutable type state there, I'm going to say node list. And then because it's just a list, I can say add, right? I can add an element. What element I'm going to add is going to be our node object. That's it. The single source of truth. And then to remove, I'm going to say remove node. And I'm going to pass, of course, again, a node object. And I'm going to say, yes, node list dot remove element. Which element is that going to be? It's going to be the node object. And this wants to make it, let's make it private because it's just being used here. And I'm going to create another function here that will get all of the nodes. So I'm going to say fun get all nodes. It's going to return, right, a list of nodes object. And I'm going to say return node list like that. And there you have it. Now we've put everything, we've hosted everything. The responsibility now of our data and the state of our list is inside of our view model. And because this is just like any other class, I'm going to pass here an init block because I want to have some data when we initialize this node view model, right? So I'm going to say node list. I'm going to add all, just pass a collection of elements, and I'm going to get all of those from node's data source, right? So we have something to work with, right? When they first start the app and say load nodes as such. Now, how do we then invoke the node view model? It's very simple. Look at this. Inside of our main activity, instead of having this, what we had, this source here, we know that this doesn't work for what we want, right? We're going to change that. First of all, I'm going to create a composable here just to simplify our lives. Say composable, right? Call this nodes. It's a fun nodes app. And this, I'm going to pass the data, right, as an argument here. So I'm going to say node view model. Look at that. It even gives us the chance to choose. Aha, just like that. And inside here, I can go ahead the actual view model. How do you do that? You just say view model like this. So now the compiler will know when we say node view model, we're going to instantiate per se a view model, which is what we have all of this. In fact, you can see if I highlight that, if I'm back here, you see node view model is highlighted. So we instantiated, we're using now our node view model. So that means now inside of our notes app here, which we're going to call here in a second here, I'm going to call actually all of this, our notes. So I'm going to cut all of this and call it here. And of course we need to add the experimental, right, to notes app like this. And we're going to change a few things. First of all, it doesn't know what this notes is. That's fine. We have our node view model here, so we can actually go and get all of our notes. So I'm going to create a variable here called notes list, and it's going to be our node view model, this guy here. So we're getting our node view model. And I'm going to say dot get all notes. Look at this. Now our node list will go and get all notes. Well, it returns node list, which is our private variable here, which is immutable state list containing node object. And we said that initially it should have these dummy data from our load nodes. You see now what's going on? Okay, so now that we have our list, I can just pass here. So I can say notes list as such. And then here, I no longer have to do any of that. Why? Because I can go straight to the actual view model. And I say note view model, right? Dot invoke the remove node and pass it. Look how easy this is. And then for add node, I say node view model again, dot add node and pass it like that. And just like that, we have it all mapped out. Let's go ahead and convert this to single line like that. This as well, convert to single line lambda, and voila. Of course, you can see that notes is not being called anywhere because we removed everything. Look, I don't need that. All I have to do, say notes app, and now I'll have to, of course, because it's expecting a node view model, right? So I'm going to create another variable here, so-called node view model. I'm going to say node view model as such, and I'm going to say by view models like this to instantiate our view model, right? And this is going to be passed along here because we need to pass our nodes view model. I'm going to pass a nodes view model like this, right? Because they have the same name, because they have the same name, right? The argument, the name argument, and the actual value. I can just say view model like this. If we had a different related or unrelated composable, we could do the same thing. This node view model is the source of all truth, is the single source of the truth when it comes to our data. Now, if I run this, it will still work as it was working before. However, we would sleep better at night because we would know that our app is working and voila, as you see, it's loading. It's calling this init block here, and we're loading our node list right away with nodes that are source, get the nodes, right? The dummy nodes. In fact, and still, if I click any of these, I should be able to delete them. As I'm clicking, I'm deleting them. So it's happening because we said here on remove node, say node view model, remove that node. So we're removing all the dummies. Now, if you add something, let's say hello, new day. Okay, let's see if it works. And voila, node added. Everything works perfectly. And I can delete the dummy. I can delete what we just added now. I can continue. And there you have it. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I have to say what you've learned is one of the best things. One of the best things, I think, in my opinion, that was ever put together, the concept in a way, right? Because it allows us to separate the concerns. Now, anybody can just go to that one source of truth, that single source of truth, which is our node view model. And look, we can add all kinds of functions here, everything we need that will govern our data flow. We can add nodes, We can remove nodes. If we want to edit nodes, we can also do that from here. Whatever we want to do, we can do from here, because then any composable that needs to use this view model can just go ahead and get this view model and start doing the work. We no longer have to worry about states that are left behind or states that are not synchronized. No more of that. Just one place where we can get that state and data. Brilliant. Brilliant indeed. And just like that, we have a working application. You can play around with this app and do all sort of things. And please take the time to study this application, because what we've just learned is going to come really handy as you continue with Compose or Android development in general. The understanding of ViewModel. Just think of it as an entity that is outside of the structure of this tree that we have activities and of course composables. That way, any composable, any class that needs the data, the integral data that is there, all it has to do is get that view model, instantiate it, and get it and start using it. Done. All right, very good. Congratulations. And again, play around with this concept. We'll come back to this concept many, many times. And I want you to really get a grasp of this so that it's not too difficult, right? So take your time. Again, take your time. No rush here. And I'll see you next.